Hello to all of you, regardless of where you're watching from. I'd like to ask you to put everything aside for a short while. What I'm about to share could fundamentally transform how you move through the world, how you experience your body, and ultimately how you live for years to come. Let me share something that most physicians will never actually discuss with you during an office visit. Your leg muscles aren't deteriorating simply because time is passing. Your leg muscles are deteriorating because absolutely nobody informed you what nutrition they require, and between those two statements lies an enormous distinction. One is just an observation, the other is an actionable path forward. I'm Dr. Alan Mandel, and today I want to walk you through 6 precise foods arranged from impactful to transformative that can restore your leg strength, rebuild your muscle structure, and restore the mobility and self-assurance you believed were permanently lost. Before I continue further, I want to share something that genuinely shocked me when I first encountered it. Research appearing in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society demonstrated that individuals over 65 experiencing significant weakness in their lower extremities showed a 72% greater likelihood of developing mobility restrictions within 5 years, along with concerning spikes in trauma-related hospitalizations, institutional placements, and premature mortality. 72%. That's not a trivial figure. That's nearly 3 out of 4 individuals who might have taken preventive measures sooner but didn't because they lacked awareness of what we currently comprehend regarding diet, muscle physiology, and aging. Let me be direct. The leading food on this list is probably sitting in your refrigerator at this very moment, something you might have been cautioned against. Something that researchers at Harvard Medical School currently recognize as among the most potent muscle-preserving substances accessible to individuals past 60. I'm holding that for last, because once you understand it, your perspective on nutrition will shift permanently. Before we get started, though, I want to connect with you personally. Add a comment sharing your age and whether your legs seem less strong, heavier, or feel less steady than previously. Perhaps climbing stairs has gotten harder. Perhaps you've had a close call with falling. Perhaps rising from a seat demands more physical effort than before. Every comment I read on this platform. Your perspective might inspire someone else to discover this content and transform their existence. Take just half a minute and participate with me. Let's go. We're moving backward from 6 toward 1, from powerful to absolutely life-altering. At number 6, introducing one that catches virtually everyone off guard: whole eggs. I realize you've encountered the egg controversy throughout your existence. They spike cholesterol. They threaten your cardiac health. Get rid of them. Don't consume them. I'm here, backed by contemporary nutritional science, to state that this guidance, particularly for individuals 60 and beyond, was arguably the most destructive health recommendation in widespread circulation. Here's what eggs deliver for your aging muscles. Eggs stand among the planet's most comprehensive sources of leucine. Leucine constitutes an amino acid. For clarity, conceptualize leucine as the activator that initiates muscle protein formation, the biochemical process by which your system fabricates and restores muscle. Post 65, your system exhibits what researchers term anabolic resistance. Translation: your musculature becomes resistant. It quits reacting as effectively to protein stimuli. It demands a more powerful signal for equivalent outcomes. Leucine delivers that signal. Pair of substantial whole eggs provide approximately 1.6 grams of leucine, which investigation from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign established was adequate to meaningfully activate muscle protein formation even in mature individuals with substantial anabolic resistance. Yet eggs offer more than leucine alone. The yolk, the component everyone instructed you to discard, contains choline, vitamin D, and a remarkable substance called phosphatidylcholine that reinforces your muscle cell structural integrity. Our bodies age, these structural elements grow increasingly delicate, less equipped to retain the substances muscles require to function and bounce back. The yolk functions as a protective barrier around your muscle cells. Tossing it away resembles purchasing a vehicle and leaving its engine at the showroom. A patient I treated, Patricia, aged 73 from Jacksonville, Florida, consulted me following her second accident within half a year. She experienced genuine dread around her home staircase. For above a decade, she'd adhered to a minimal fat program, steering completely clear of eggs at her former physician's recommendation. We incorporated 3 complete eggs into her breakfast routine. Inside 8 weeks, she described ascending her stairs without gripping the handrail, the first instance in 3 years. That's not coincidental. That's leucine, choline, and vitamin D functioning precisely as investigation confirms they should. Consume 2 to 3 complete eggs each morning for maximum results, optimally with a modest quantity of wholesome fat including olive oil or avocado, which we'll examine subsequently. The fat facilitates uptake of the fat-soluble vitamins in the yolk. Prevent cooking them in an ungreased surface. Moderate temperatures and careful preparation keep the protein structurally sound. Moving into number 5 on the ranking, ocean-sourced salmon. If your legs feel weighted down, if nighttime cramping happens, if morning soreness greets you upon waking, there's a solid probability that persistent immune activation is quietly harming your muscle structure through the night. Ocean-sourced salmon functions as one of nature's strongest inflammatory suppressing compounds ever identified. The primary active elements are EPA and DHA, omega-3 varieties. Prior to your focus drifting at those acronyms, permit me to convey what actually occurs inside an older system. Envision muscle cell inflammation as a brush fire. It burns gradually at a low intensity, and across years and periods of time it destroys everything in its vicinity. The muscle fibers themselves, the connective structure, the nerve conduits transmitting messages from your thoughts to your legs commanding movement. EPA and DHA function like water delivery helicopters. They transcend merely calming the inflammation. They chemically neutralize inflammatory substances, specifically a collection termed prostaglandins and cytokines that your system generates progressively after 60. Investigation conducted at the University of Aberdeen throughout Scotland examined 87 individuals past 65 over a 18-week duration. Participants consuming omega-3 fatty acids matching around 3 weekly servings of ocean salmon displayed a 22% boost in muscle protein formation rates relative to the non-treatment population. 22%, that's not a manufactured supplement, that's genuinely a fish. However, salmon holds an additional advantage for maturing legs that practically nobody discusses. It's one of the uncommon nutritional options of vitamin D3, the functional form of vitamin D that your dermal layer cannot manufacture adequately past age 70. Investigation in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology discovered that vitamin D shortage, affecting approximately 77% of individuals over 65, connects directly to muscular deterioration, reduced equilibrium, and higher sarcopenia probability, medical terminology for aging-associated muscle loss. One portion of ocean-sourced Atlantic salmon supplies up to 988 measurement units of vitamin D3. Suggested daily quantities for individuals over 70 equal 800 IU. You obtain it from a single plate. Integrate salmon into your meals 2 or 3 instances per week. Ocean-sourced matters tremendously. Farmed salmon displays substantially different omega-3 to omega-6 proportions and doesn't deliver comparable inflammatory advantages. Mix it with several dark, leafy vegetables to activate the vitamin K2 collaboration, which we'll encounter with our following option. Item 4 in our ranking, and this one carries a practically legendary standing within anti-aging specialists, kale and comparable dark vegetables. Picture every mature individual you've encountered who moved with energy, who stood from a seat without pressing on furniture, who strolled with intention and not shuffling. I'll confidently bet that dark, leafy greens constituted consistent consumption for them. Here's the physiological foundation. Post-75, your system decreases roughly 35% of its capacity to restore nitric oxide, a substance functioning as a circulation controller inside your leg vasculature. When nitric oxide decreases, your small-scale circulation, the microscopic arteries nourishing your front thigh muscles, posterior thigh muscles, shin muscles, experiences blockage. Minerals can't arrive. Elimination byproducts can't escape. Your muscles experience quicker tiredness, reduced recovery, and contraction annually. Kale, leafy vegetables, chard, and arugula offer substantial dietary nitrates, which your system transforms back to nitric oxide via a procedure requiring microorganisms in your mouth. You're fundamentally using diet to restore what aging has stolen. A compelling research initiative from Karolinska Institute in Sweden discovered that plant-derived nitrate administration at quantities equivalent to roughly 200 grams of kale improved muscle performance in mature individuals by 19%. The musculature didn't expand, it simply became more effective at utilizing the substances getting delivered. Picture refurbishing the combustion efficiency in an older mechanism. The apparatus itself doesn't get modified, but operates more fluidly, cleanly, and persistently. Kale possesses extraordinary quantities of magnesium, a substance that 68% of individuals over 60 experience chronic shortage of. Magnesium facilitates above 300 biochemical activities, and among the most important is muscle loosening. When your legs experience nocturnal tightening, when your lower leg muscles seize, when your toes bend involuntarily, that's virtually consistently a magnesium insufficiency indicator. One serving of prepared kale supplies 157 milligrams of magnesium, about 37% of your everyday intake in a single portion. A patient called David, 71 years old, a retired delivery specialist from Milwaukee, sought my assistance describing legs that appeared to be filled with thick substance each daybreak. He'd experimented with supplements over many years with minimal improvement. We adjusted his nutrition. Pair of portions of sautéed kale with oil and garlic each day. 9 weeks afterward, he explained the heaviness sensation departed. He was traversing his previous delivery route purely for fitness, experiencing the pleasure of it. The oil, incidentally, substantially increases uptake of the nutrient compounds in kale. Always prepare your vegetables in superior quality fat. Right at this juncture, between point 4 and point 3, I'd like to pose a question. If this material is already broadening your comprehension about something unfamiliar to you, express your interest through the like function immediately. It instructs the platform to share this content with additional seniors requiring precisely this info. And in case you haven't followed yet, subscribe now. Every week I distribute information backed by investigation and applicable health specifics crafted especially for mature individuals desiring to exist with increased power, longevity, and self-determination. Your subscribe selection is positioned right there. It requires a single moment and might establish itself as one of your most valuable health selections today. Now, item 3, and we're approaching the premier options now, full-fat cultured yogurt. Most individuals conceptualize yogurt as a lightweight treat, something to consume when attempting beneficial choices. Most don't comprehend that full-fat cultured yogurt represents one of the most powerfully muscle-building consumables for a maturing physiology. It remains significantly under-leveraged as a muscle development approach in mature populations. This justifies its position on our compilation. A serving of unflavored, full-fat cultured yogurt holds roughly 17 to 20 grams of superior-grade protein. Significantly, it demonstrates a particular amino composition, incorporating leucine, yet again isoleucine and valine, the pair of secondary-chain amino substances that muscle tissue assimilates with remarkable directness. Dissimilar to grain-derived proteins, frequently incomplete and demanding pairing with differing options for complete absorption, the protein in cultured yogurt is categorized by specialists as having outstanding bioavailability. It doesn't follow an indirect route, it goes specifically where your muscles require it. Yet the component creating cultured yogurt distinctive for maturing individuals surpasses straightforward protein contribution. It holds dynamic probiotic microbes, specifically lactobacillus, functioning upon an emerging discipline termed the intestinal muscle connection. This constitutes a contemporary investigation domain, and the discoveries are striking. Investigation conducted at the University of California in Davis discovered that optimized intestinal bacterial populations in older populations paralleled greater muscular material, superior leg strength results, and faster recuperation from exercise. The digestive system, it appears, isn't just processing your consumption, it's controlling what portion of that consumption your musculature can employ. Beyond 65, the digestive bacterial community typically turns into reduced variation, much less powerful, and much less proficient at obtaining nutrients from meals. Foods containing probiotics like cultured yogurt help restore that variation. Conceptualize it resembling restocking a collection that's progressively discarded its items. The more thorough the collection, the superior your system can discover and utilize the knowledge it requires. For highest impact, consume your cultured yogurt within 30 to 45 moments of any muscular exertion. A short trip counts. That's your development opportunity, the time frame whenever your musculature demonstrates highest receptiveness to protein triggers. Mix in a portion of powdered flax for supplemental omega-3s or apply unprocessed sweetener, which possesses microorganisms that can boost probiotic survival in your digestive system. Consistently select unflavored, full-fat choices. The decreased fat choices frequently interchange the fat component with additional sweetener, which fuels the irritation we're combating. Currently, we're at item 2, and I promised earlier in this presentation that one of the premier choices would surprise you. This particular one is it. Item 2, beetroot. I can see several of you grinning. Several of you are expressing uncertainty, and I fully comprehend that perspective because beets aren't the immediate consideration when contemplating muscular development. However, the investigation regarding beets and physical capability in older people proves so striking that significant sports medicine centers have integrated beet-derived substances into restoration approaches. This isn't conventional wisdom. This represents contemporary investigation relevant to the aging human body. The substance concentrates on those dietary nitrates I mentioned regarding kale. However, beets hold them at quantities roughly 3 to 4 times greater per unit relative to any leafy option. One typical beetroot supplies roughly 300 milligrams of dietary nitrates. Whenever those nitrates encounter the depleted oxygen zone of activated muscle, they convert to nitric oxide with exceptional precision. The outcome constitutes something specialists term a vessel-expanding phenomenon, a release of blood vessel spreading that floods your legs with nutrients and oxygen in patterns your aging vessel system cannot ordinarily create on its own. Investigation performed at Wake Forest University established that mature individuals who consumed beet concentrate, matching a pair of medium beets, previous to standard activity, demonstrated a 38% growth in blood movement to the brain areas responsible for muscle coordination. Let me convey this differently. Beets didn't merely enhance leg function. They increased the brain's capacity to coordinate your leg motion. For older individuals anxious regarding trauma, about synchronization, regarding the signal transmission diminishing with progression, this holds tremendous relevance. Beets deliver substantial quantities of betaine, a component that decreases homocysteine in the plasma. Elevated homocysteine, impacting approximately 47% of individuals over 60, correlates with expedited muscle deterioration, circulatory deterioration, and compromised mitochondrial operation. Your muscle cells' mitochondria function as your power generators. When compromised, your musculature functions like a vehicle with a waning power source. Betaine maintains the substances safeguarding those power factories. A participant I treated, Jennifer, age 67 from Seattle, Washington, came after receiving counsel from several doctors that her muscle deterioration and persistent exhaustion constituted typical progression. She was 67 and utilizing a walking apparatus. We introduced a pair of cooked beets into her midday consumption 4 instances per week. We included modest everyday motion. Within 12 weeks, she went to my clinic without the apparatus. She was tending her garden once again. Her tears expressing gratitude moved me profoundly as well. Prepare beets at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 to 60 minutes to maximize the nitrate substance's minus deterioration. It's possible to incorporate uncooked beets into a beverage combination with modest citrus liquid. The vitamin C in citrus substantially improves nitrate transformation efficiency. Refrain from extended boiling of beets because water-soluble nitrates become lost. Mix beets with any lean protein selection, and you possess among the most effective pre-exertion meals for maturing physiology. And currently, Item 1. The food described at the start of this content, the option that researchers at Harvard Medical School recognize as among the greatest muscle-preserving substances obtainable to humans past 60. The food that's been wrongfully condemned, disregarded, and excluded from the nutritional patterns of countless mature populations based on superseded knowledge. Item 1. Premium olive oil. I recognize some anticipated a protein, a manufactured superfood, something uncommon. Remain with me because my explanation of premium olive oil and the maturing muscular framework will fundamentally change your conceptualization of fat, irritation, and the composition of athletic strength. Let's start with the element distinguishing premium olive oil from all additional dietary fats globally. It contains a substance called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal represents a plant-sourced compound performing in your system nearly equivalently to ibuprofen. Equivalent activity: it suppresses matching inflammation-reducing mechanisms, COX-1 and COX-2, that doctor-recommended anti-inflammatory substances target. The distinction is that oleocanthal accomplishes this absent the intestinal bleeding, organ dysfunction, and cardiac concern accompanying extended NSAID consumption. For mature individuals disproportionately managed with inflammation fighters for joint and muscle concerns, this distinction matters. However, muscle-specific advantages transcend anti-inflammatory consequences. A groundbreaking investigation performed by the University of Athens, featured in Scientific Nutrition, examined 840 individuals past 65 across 3 years. Individuals consuming a minimum of 4 tablespoons of premium olive oil every day exhibited a 37% decreased sarcopenia probability compared with individuals consuming it seldom. Sarcopenia, once again, constitutes the scientific expression for the continuous involuntary decrease of muscle mass and capability, starting roughly at 40 and accelerating considerably past 60. 37% reduction from oil. Here's the biological explanation. Harvard researchers consider this the most fascinating component. The plant substances in premium olive oil, consisting of 30-plus unique varieties, seem to directly stimulate what researchers designate the mTOR transmission in muscle cells. The mTOR system represents the fundamental regulator for muscle protein formation. It's the equivalent channel that leucine activates, that muscle-building activity activates, that muscle-building substances activate. Oil plant substances enable that switch autonomously. They don't demand exercise. They don't demand elevated chemicals. They function in the cellular environment regardless of everything happening. Beyond 70, your organism decreases roughly 40% of its mTOR capability. Musculature becomes tougher to construct, not simply from insufficient nutrient consumption or insufficient activity, but because the apparatus that constructs them operates at diminished function. Premium olive oil represents one of the few nutritional options seemingly competent at partially re-establishing that capability. Picture recalibrating a temperature mechanism that's been positioned excessively low continuously, and subsequently there exists the mitochondrial element. Investigation performed by the University of Jaén in Spain discovered that hydroxytyrosol, an additional plant-derived compound present plentifully in premium olive oil, shields mitochondrial composition in muscle from deterioration damage. Throughout progression, our mitochondrial composition gathers mistakes, resembling a manuscript that's gotten duplicate copies too frequently. The duplicates become less legible. The instructions deteriorate. The outcome includes muscle cells producing decreased power, healing more sluggishly, and ultimately ending function. Hydroxytyrosol seems to decrease that mitochondrial process by counteracting the unstable chemicals producing the deterioration initially. I want to communicate about James, 81 years old, previous military officer from Jacksonville, Virginia. At his consultation, he had not been able to go beyond a couple neighborhoods without requiring recuperation. His lower extremities, per his description, just wouldn't function. His meals were well structured, or he presumed so, quite fat-limited, quite protein-focused. He'd stayed away from fat over 3 decades per his generation's guidance. We incorporated 4 tablespoons of high-caliber premium olive oil within his everyday intake. Pair within the daybreak with eggs. Pair throughout lunchtime with vegetables. We performed not one other modifications for the starting month. Through his 6-week evaluation, he traversed 4 neighborhoods without recuperation. At week 12, he was back utilizing his bike. At half a year, he finished a 2-mile foundation fundraising event. He forwarded me the completion line picture. It's displayed inside my professional environment. The objective per investigation is 4 tablespoons each day. Employ it as your fundamental medium for moderate temperatures. Generously apply across vegetables, eggs, fish, and bean-based sources. For greatest uptake of its nutrient plant compounds, mix it with consumables including nutrient vitamins, eggs, salmon, kale, each of which you're acquainted with from this compilation. This integration isn't coincidental. These half-dozen foods function as one collection, and when you integrate them regularly, the total consequence on your leg muscle, irritation percentages, mitochondrial operation, and capability substantially surpasses any singular component in isolation. Acquire premium olive oil in dark containers from recognized sources, and look for a harvest timeframe, not merely an expiration marker on the container. Plant substance volume diminishes through periods and brightness. Contemporary olive oil is therapeutic. Aged, transparent container, discounted price oil is merely fat. Now, I'd like to leave you with this realization, as I want to guarantee you exit this having not merely comprehension, yet authentic motivation to act. You weren't fashioned to become a spectator in your own journey. You weren't created to observe from inside while your descendants participate outside. You weren't engineered to grasp the support climbing down, to miss the relative's expedition, to sidestep the celebration because you question whether your legs will persist. That isn't your predetermined trajectory. That's what happens from comprehension never delivered. Currently, we delivered it. Never is it too far gone. I share this not as comfort, yet as clinical certainty. Muscle inside the human system sustains development and restoration capacity throughout the 9th period of existence. The investigation is decisive. Your physiology yearns to recover. It anticipates the components to accomplish so. Your purpose, starting immediately, starting with your following consumption, is delivering those components. Half-dozen eggs, ocean salmon, a container of kale, a container of cultured yogurt, a pair of cooked beets, 4 tablespoons of the greatest oil option you discover. These aren't remarkable selections. They're obtainable in nearly every market across existence, and they carry the capacity to reclaim something that the majority in your demographic have abandoned wanting. The opportunity to exist with your physiology on your terminology, with capability, with poise, and with joy. The investigation citations for each scientific investigation mentioned in this content appear in the details underneath. I urge you to examine them, discuss them with your physician, and leverage them for your healthcare advocacy. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd like you to perform that at this point. Each week, we distribute investigation-validated, mature-focused wellness content that your healthcare provider might not possess available during a rushed office visit. This population grows since individuals such as you circulate it with loved people, and that carries significance I can't fully communicate. And presently, I'd like to listen to you. Communicate in the comments. Explain which of these half-dozen options you'll integrate into your consumption initially. Explain how your legs have been managing. Communicate your experience as this platform exists specifically for you, not theoretically, yet you specifically, bearing your designation and your background and your individual version of this progression. I examine every contribution,